Well, welcome to our first chat with Zach, where we're going to find out the story of his life and with his contraptions. And as you can see, a whole bunch of chaos in the back tells a little bit of the story.
This is my account manager, Sally. So thank you so much for, by the way, interviewing me. I greatly appreciate it. It's wonderful to chat with you, and I'm excited to share what it is about me that I guess both people like or find interesting, or maybe if not me, the contraption side of itself. But yeah, let's dive right in.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your background, like what got you into this field in the first place.
Do you want to know about that background or my personal background? Because that background is also very interesting, I quite think.
Well, let's hear both.
That background right there is my life, quite truly, because it is the wall of memories, I call it. Different shelves represent different things. The top one, some of my accolades. The middle shelf represents parts from different projects. The third shelf, kind of right there in the Tesla coil line, that's all memories, so experiences I've had in life. And the bottom shelf are just random parts that either I haven't yet used in projects or things I want to use and I'm kind of accumulating and placing it there, which it is a real background. I'll point out as people sometimes think I use a green screen. No, this is my life. I've been building Rube Goldberg machines and chain reaction since I was 3 years old. No one would have any idea about it, but I grew up in England. It was there that I started building these Rube Goldberg machines. My mom just happened to read me a book one day, and I got inspired by it just to start tinkering and inventing. I keep that very book on my desk, and it's kind of that reminder of this is what started it all for me. It's The Mice and the Clockwork Bus. And it's the story of these mice that are just taking everyday objects and putting them together in order to make themselves a little bus. I remember being three, genuinely three. One of the first instances I had, one of the memories I have was looking through this book and just thinking it was so cool that they could do that. And there's a follow-up picture of where I took apart part of my hamster's cage and marble tracks. And I sent a little marble down through that and had that box slide down the stairs. I just remember I kept adding things to it. And just continued on for quite a number of years until I was 17 when I even heard the word Rube Goldberg, is a fun fact. I want to move back here to America. And I finally discovered what it was. I thought I was the only person doing this kind of things. But I was watching the Game Show Network one day, and I ended up seeing this team, and they're like, wait a minute. They're solving a simple task using everyday objects in this really cool, creative way. It's like, this is called Rube Goldberg. It just blew my mind. 2 years later, I would go to that very university, Purdue University, and I ended up joining the very team that I saw on that show. And within a year of it, I was the captain and running that team, and we won our first national championship. So had I not grown up in England, had I not kind of been removed from the knowledge of it that I think a lot of normal American schools do teach this in their programs, I wouldn't have had that inspiration chain to get me at least up until Purdue.
So it's kind of always been the path. Have you ever considered any different type of career, or has this been it?
I knew when I was in 7th grade that I wanted to be an astronautical engineer. I wanted to build rocket ships. I wanted to travel to space. I knew this. And I ended up winning a science fair. One of the accolades up there is my science fair nerdy trophy for insulation. I won this contest, or won the science fair, made it to a place, and I ended up speaking to an engineer at the place. And he said, oh, have you ever thought about going to Purdue University to become an engineer? And I'd never heard of Purdue up until that point, started researching it, and I was like, yes, this is an amazing school. I want to be an astronautical engineer here, at least do something with NASA. And then it just so happened that when I watched the Game Show Network years later, it's like, my God, they're at Purdue University. It's just like it all fits. And beyond that, the mascot is a train. Purdue University's mascot is the Boilermaker Express. I was like, train's one of my favorite things. Always want to be an engineer, and a phenomenal school. And obviously Rube Goldberg. So for years, the path was engineering. Now, when I joined up with the Rube Goldberg program, I also was doing engineering simultaneously, and I learned I am terrible at computer programming. It just came to the point of like, I can't do this. And I just so happened to stumble into the civil engineering building. I stumbled into the library and found rocks and mineral samples, chatted with somebody, and I actually switched to geology when I was 3.5 years through my college program. I switched and I became a geologist. As we can see, I certainly don't do any of that. So no, this is not what I originally planned on doing. It was just that side hobby that, I did all throughout. And even in college dorms, My little party trick was that I would take apart people's dorms and I would make a little Rube machine in their place. And they were terrible at the time, but it was also while we were building these big, cool contraptions that would later earn Guinness World Records. And it was through all of that. It was through going to Purdue. It was through all that trial and error of a degree, which kept me at Purdue even longer, where our team was able to earn a Guinness World Record. And I one day got a call from SynLabs, the big production group behind OK Go. It's like, hey, we have this opportunity where we're going to be doing this music video. And I got to help design it, and then just more and more projects from there.
That's amazing. Do you feel that your learnings in the engineering field helped guide some of the skills that you needed to go into this contraption world?
I think the skills that I learned from that were that ability to problem solve. Other skill sets for sure, and astronautical engineering has yet to pay off in Rube Goldberg world. Even geology, I just very recently used my first rock in a machine. But for myself, having done this for all of my life and kind of having the innate ability to look at everyday objects, even for example, like my cat tree tower, I just noticed, I have this, you turn it on its side, it's a lovely wheel and axle that I can make roll away. And if I put something inside of the container, it can spill out as it rolls along. And I just literally turned, looked at that and was like, hey, wait a second, I can do that. Those are skills that I've just learned throughout my life, probably not through that degree path.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit more about your journey from SynLabs. So you then jumped into that world, and what happened next?
It was a little bit of a whirlwind because obviously the OK Go video certainly took off, and with it more projects came in. Disney XD was one of the bigger ones. And I ended up going to graduate school at Purdue University, which more doubled as an opportunity for me to stay longer with Rube Goldberg at that. Because there was one year when we earned our second Guinness World Record that I stopped going to class for 4 months just so that I could build the machine and be a part of the team. But so simultaneously doing the SynLabs while also earning a graduate degree and earning Guinness World Records. But from there, it was right as I'm getting ready to graduate that we got one, the ESPN Rube Goldberg, which is one of our most popular. It really was that cool, wonderful experience of having that ability, getting my hands really into the thick of it, both from design and build, whereas in the prior, I just kind of either done design or I was just being told what I needed to build. It really just emphasized that, wow, this is a cool thing. We're getting all these jobs, and let's just try and go down this path and see where it leads. And here's where it led. Unfortunately, my friend Adam Sadowski, who ran SynLabs for a number of years, he passed away in 2021. And from there, I was able to pick up his legacy, take on the mantle of owning the company, and continuing on what SynLabs does and doing cool things. So
I'm intrigued a little bit about these Guinness World Records you speak of. Why don't you give me a little bit of context? Like, how does one even go about getting one of those? Did they find you? Did you submit? Tell me more.
So the very first Guinness World Record was definitely an accident whereby we built this amazing machine for the 2011 contest to water a plant. And we built this machine that actually traveled through time. We had all of these different things such as the Big Bang, Noah's Ark, Stonehenge rising out of the ground, building the pyramids. And this is all contained in one Rube Goldberg machine that was only about 6 foot cube. And we sat down, we counted the steps right before contest, and we arrived at 244 steps. And, being a part of this world, we realized that the old record was 232. We're like, we have a shot at a Guinness World Record. Like, what does it take to qualify? And the qualifications back then, a decade ago, was that you needed to have it witnessed by a judge or the contest chairman, and it needs to work perfectly, not once, but twice. So the odds of them working are really slim. OK Go, for a great example, worked 4 times out of 84 attempts. Honda Cog worked once out of around 580 attempts. So getting a machine to work twice in a row is a tall order. We were just in our workshop and the rest of the team had gone home. It was just me and 2 other guys and the cameraman and our person of good standing, and just had to sit there. So we did it over and over and over and over again until we got the 2 in a row. And anything with Guinness, you have to be so well documented. There's so many forms. The very first time I submitted, I sent a 50-page document that outlined everything. I had to prove that it was 244 steps, writing out every single one of them, because Guinness is Guinness for a reason. They verify everything. And I got the email one day that just like, you've been approved, you got the Guinness World Record. And I was like, it just, that opened up the floodgates right there. The following year, the second Guinness World Record was back to back. We decided that like we wanted to shatter our own record. And we decided, let's just make the most kick-ass machine possible, where it's a machine that solves every single task given to us in the entire contest history. Again, you only have 6 feet of space, 6 foot cube, which is 216 cubic feet. We had to get creative with that one, with rotating paddle wheels that had to literally bring the machine steps into place prior. We spent 3 weeks alone building a steam locomotive engine on this 6-foot contraption. And we just knew it was going to be special. And when it was all finally counted and done, we hit 299 steps. And I was like, no, we can't do 299. We had to add the one more just to cross the 300. And luckily enough, during the contest, it didn't work during the contest. It went terribly. We lost. But immediately afterwards, while we were running it for the audience, it worked once. And we're like, oh, 9 months, 5,000 man hours. And it worked. It finally worked. Oh my God. And we were like, it worked once. So we go again. And we ran it again. And it worked twice in a row in front of the audience, in front of everybody. I had all the witnesses I needed. Submitted it. That one was a turnaround of like 4 weeks. Guinness is slow. No offense if anybody from Guinness is watching, but you guys are slow. The first one took around 9 weeks to get an answer back. And even with the fast track process, it was around 3 to 4 weeks. That other email that was like, congratulations. Like, and it was one of those things. It just opened up so many doors, because here I was, a 22-year-old in college that was already a 2-time Guinness World Record holder.
So are you going to attempt for a third at some point?
I actually recently got my 3rd Guinness World Record just last year. It was for Lay's potatoes, whereby we powered an entire recording studio using nothing but potatoes. Lay's was kind enough to give us 8,000 potatoes, which I came up with a methodology to link them together, get as much energy out of them. There's 2 electrodes that go into a potato, and it creates a chemical reaction throughout it where it strips the electron from one piece of metal to the other, and thereby generates electricity. And I had to come up with this really efficient system in order to make that happen, because otherwise it was going to need around 300,000 potatoes, and Lay's said no. We generated a lot of power over the course of an evening, and it was enough that we were able to power just the recording studio elements, plug it all into this one battery, and it ran for just 19 and a half minutes before everything went. It was Anitta, the Brazilian pop superstar, who came out there and recorded her song Envolver for us. And we actually had Guinness on site this time, which makes it a lot easier. It's far more expensive, but it's way easier having somebody from Guinness there, because you don't need to do all the videoing and the recording. They can just certify it right there on the spot and give you that yay or nay, which apparently a lot of times it is nay. Just paying for somebody to go out there does not guarantee you the record. You've
worked with quite a lot of well-known brands and some famous names. What's that been like?
I don't really get starstruck by anybody. They're just people. Richard Hammond's my co-star in Contraption Masters on Discovery. Our very first meeting was on a Zoom call with myself, him, and the executives from Channel 4. Again, I'm kind of, Richard Hammond, a very, very big name, one of the most famous people in England, in fact. And he joins the call. I'm sitting there, and I think I was like half picking my nose or something. It was just something silly. And I was just like, oh, crap, Rich Hammond joined. I was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And he just cuts me off mid-sentence like, Zach, I watched your videos on your YouTube. I was trying to figure out how to build my own chain reaction at home. And let me tell you, mine was shit. Mine was just terrible. I couldn't figure out how to do it. Your videos, yours were great. And it made me so envious because I couldn't figure out what you did. And he just started the call with that, just like the high energy. And not only that, but, like he had heard of me. Richard Hammond had heard of me prior to any of this. That's just a wonderful thing. Meeting famous people along the way. A lot of people have seen these crazy contraptions, have seen OK Go, have seen some of the famous ones, Sonic, the recent Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And then when they mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, I'm the Rube guy. I'm the one that behind that. And they're just like, oh my God, how do you do that? And how do you figure it out? And it's humbling. It's like, they're such a big name. And here I am, just this guy from New Hampshire that does weird stuff with toys. But even like Michelle Beadle from ESPN Sports Nation, I was like, did you make all of this? Me, I came up with this. I was like, I love this. I cannot believe I get to be a part of this. And regardless of whether you're a celebrity or a kid or someone a little further along in life, it's such a childlike thing that I do that it really, I've not found anybody that doesn't truly enjoy it. So thankfully, so like when trying to market and brand this sort of stuff out to people, it's just like, okay, so we need to narrow down the field. And I'm like, but everyone I've met likes this.
I love that. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about any upcoming projects? Is there anything you're currently working on now that you're really excited about?
So the very up and coming, in just a few weeks, heading out to Seattle once again for the Seattle Boat Show. Last year, I built this gigantic Rube Goldberg machine, and this year I'm taking pedal boats. So if you think of the little pedal boats where you pedal along and you kind of argue with your partner, like, pedal faster, I am pedaling, and you just kind of like, yeah, you spin out of control with that. I've actually turned them into little land racers. So I've converted these boats, a couple of them, 3, and they're going to be able to pedal inside of Lumen Field, and you'll actually be able to go around a racetrack, and it's going to mimic the Seattle hydroplane races. We're going to stick a little fake jet engine on the back of them, and you're going to be able to move at a whopping 2 miles an hour in your little pedal boat while also pedaling with somebody, and grand prizes will be awarded at the end of this event. There is one big project in the works, which again, fingers crossed that it could happen. But even if not, it still has wonderful elements from it that I plan on incorporating, because this year especially, there's just so many cool Rube projects that both getting inquiries for, but again, like starting to book out. One of which would be another project for Disney. Fingers crossed there, because those are always, you know, the really cool big ones. But I'm also doing a lot more live shows these days where I build these contraptions live in front of people, and sometimes without a plan, like the Fairbanks Museum in Vermont. I literally just go down into their storerooms and it's just like, okay, what do I need? Okay, here's a funnel, here's a bag of balloons, and here's a porcupine. And it's a genuine stuffed porcupine. And with it, I was able to put a balloon in the funnel to which was holding up a weight. And then as the porcupine fell, it popped the balloon, in which then it could make the next thing happen. Yeah, people can come out and see these different things. The Sea Science Center in Manchester, that'll be happening. The Wicked STEM event in September. That's another one of that. Fairbanks, I'm going back to them as well. Basically, a lot of them currently are in the New England area where I am based, though, of course, looking to do other places. And again, there's ones that can be happen, but aren't, like, the paperwork's not fully signed yet. So,
okay. Very exciting, and looking forward to seeing all of that being posted on your YouTube channel, of course.
Oh my God, the book too. The
book.
So there's this book. It started off where it was going to be more of like an instructional manual that it was going to help people learn how to build their own Rube Goldberg machines. Now, we got to the 3rd iteration of it, and the book was completely redesigned. And myself taking over the role as author, as well as Ed Steckley, our illustrator, who just recently won a Reuben Award, so one of the highest awards you can as a cartoonist. We created this wonderful book that teaches anybody how to build Rube Goldberg machines, 25 of them, using things you have laying around your home, using nothing more than scissors, string, duct tape, and zip ties. No tools required whatsoever. Every step is illustrated. And not only that, there will be instructional videos where I'll be showing exactly how to make them. It's very much the Chef Cousteau cookbook of the Rube Goldberg world. Anybody can build a Rube Goldberg machine, and here's how. We'll include a link in the description as well. Otherwise, it is now available on the Amazon store.
Well, I think that might just be all that we have time for today. Looking forward to diving into all of those little stories and extra pieces that you alluded to, and chatting more in the future. So Zach, thank you for your time. It looks pretty hard to do, so I'm sure that book is going to simplify things down a bit and let people enter into this world, and hopefully they share and inspire other 3-year-olds out there to become part of this world.
That's all I can hope for, because it's just inspiring other people to be able to even attempt this, because it's such a wonderful thing, and I'm glad to share it with folks. So thank you for listening if you're out there, and awesome. Take care, everyone.